Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I'm sorry I'm laughing. There's a level of patheticness that's associated with this that evokes a certain amount of humor. I can't be mad at it over the top. Mad at it. But I have to say something about it. I'm not a better person than this. I'm a horrible, flawed human being. So yes, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to bitch and moan about it, and I'm going to complain, and I'm going to make fun of the person who said it. Twitter. Let's go to Twitter for the moment. Victoria Brownsworth at VadVox. Sanders voted against the gun control repeatedly, including right after Sandy Hook. In 2018 debates, he said he owned Sandy Hook's family's nothing. Facts. So Jordan Chariton responded, if Bernie Sanders' progressive activists haven't shown you when you go around and make case, you can often shame into action. He's trying to make the point that if you push hard enough, you can get the person to bend to your will politically. Joanne Reed found the need to chime into this, all conveniently forgotten by the faith. By the faith. Supporting Bernie Sanders is apparently a faith now. Now, Joanne Reed, along with many other Hillary voters, have been running around the country screaming at the top of their lungs in one mic after the next to anybody who would hear them how everybody else was responsible for Hillary losing that election with the exception of Hillary Clinton herself. They are looking for anything that they can find to hit Bernie Sanders in the knees because they are angry that Bernie Sanders had the temerity to enter the race to be president of the United States. How dare he? How dare he? That Vermont senator, the man calls himself a socialist. How dare he? She had a vagina. How dare he? How dare he? Bernie Sanders was from the little state of Vermont. Each senator is supposed to represent their state. Do you honestly believe that Bernie Sanders, do you honestly believe that he had like a D record under the NRA? That his vote, the lone socialist, is the one who's responsible for some kind of gun violence? How does this apply to the current goddamn situation in Las Vegas where all these people were murdered? You honestly believe somebody with like a D rating for the NRA is somehow responsible for what took place in Maryland? What I will tell you is more responsible, if we're actually talking about it, environmental factors. Environmental factors. I showed the chart yesterday on the number of gun deaths. We had more mass shootings in the United States than actually days of the year. Imagine that. Imagine that. More mass shooting than guns in days of the year. If you have a country that's awash in guns, you can kind of assume that yes, there's going to be gun violence here or there, and everyone is not necessarily going to behave rationally with those guns. Add in economic stress. Add in not necessarily having health care. Add in not necessarily having this thing for being able to go to school for education. Add in not having a goddamn job. Adding having a job and having that job shipped overseas by people who wanted to push things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership or NAFTA or this Panama deal or whatever other deal that Hillary Clinton wanted, this kind of open border thing. The thing that put pressure on workers and put pressure on the middle class in this country, that was able to lower the amount of money that people got paid in their jobs or froze the amount of money that those people made in those jobs or got those jobs shipped overseas with those people working at Walmart. The issues that affect this country are systemic. It's not one senator with like a D rating from the NRA that's causing gun violence. That is fucking insanity. It's insane. I would wager to you that there were more gun deaths caused by some of the shady dealings that Hillary Clinton did in that State Department where she was trading guns for weapons or guns for money to the Clinton Foundation than Bernie Sanders any day of the week and twice on Sundays. Twice on Sundays. She was the one that wanted open borders. She was the one that thought it was perfectly okay to put more stress on workers by having those open borders and having those trade deals and then repudiating the trade deal after she supported the trade deal multiple times in public. I'm making the point that what avails us in our society, the reason we have such a violent society, you put people under stress. People act and exhibit aberrant behavior under stress. And since you have a country that's awash in guns with this idea of this capitalistic mantra of How can we sell the most guns possible to the most amount of people? And then you have the Republican Party that toes this line and politicizes this idea of people being murdered by guns and says, this is not the time to talk about it. There will be times to talk about it after people have forgotten about it, but right now this is not the time to talk about it. We need to sell more guns. When Obama was in office, the mantra was Obama's going to take your guns. That was awesome for the NRA. They loved the fact that Obama was in office because they were able to use him as a scapegoat in order to sell guns. Obama didn't do anything on gun violence, or at the very least it was meager. Trump turned around and undid the meager things that Obama did because it was pure incrementalism, which is classic Obama and classic Democrats. I am making the point to you that the person who you were pushing for, even though Hillary Clinton was on this gun tangent, her position, even her position on guns didn't make sense. Let's be honest. Hillary Clinton look, I would give Hillary Clinton credit if Hillary Clinton was going against something that was against her self-interest. Guns are not against her self-interest. She can be as flamboyantly against guns as she wants to be because there's no financial interest in it in the sense of guns. Ultimately, as a Democrat, she's not going to be on the side of these gun manufacturers. These guys are in the pockets of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is in the pockets of the gun manufacturers in that sense. She has no vested interest. She can be Muhammad Ali in regards to the guns in this case because nobody is stuffing money in her pocket in this sense. That being said, what she was talking about was de facto making guns illegal. If you're going to make this argument that you're going to go after gun manufacturers or people who are dealing in guns or selling guns, whatever that stupid argument was that she was making in the debate, she was doing it purely to score political points. But if you interrogate the argument that she's making, she's talking about making guns illegal by essentially going after the manufacturer of those guns. Somebody gets killed with a gun. You go after the manufacturer. What did the manufacturer have to do with the person being murdered with the gun? It's foreseeable that if you buy a gun, that the gun may be used for murder, but that's the capitalistic society that you live in. It's not the fault of the gun manufacturer in that case. Your society is at fault. If you're going to get rid of guns in your society, then do it through the legal apparatus, meaning laws. This idea that you're saying, I'm going to put these guys to court, which means you're going to put all these guys out of business because nobody's going to sell guns if they could potentially be prosecuted for whatever some yahoo does with that weapon. The position makes no sense. It doesn't logically make sense. That's the point I'm getting at. If I'm not mistaken, that's the point that Bernie Sanders was getting at in that debate that this person is talking about. At least that's the debate I think this person is talking about. Doesn't matter. Ultimately, the point I'm trying to get at is the stress that is applied to the society itself, the issues that avail the human beings in our particular society is somewhat systemic. You don't get more massacres than days if you don't have a sick society. That society is exhibiting aberrant behavior. You have the flu. You're missing vitamin A. You're missing vitamin B. You're missing vitamin C. You have an iron deficiency. What does your body do when you're missing stuff? This hurts. That hurts. I don't have the energy that I used to have. I'm low energy. I'm gaining weight. I'm losing weight. I'm whatever. My body is exhibiting aberrant behavior. Your body is exhibiting aberrant behavior because you're missing something. You're giving it things that it doesn't necessarily want. You're putting chemicals in it. You're breathing air that it's not necessarily the best air to breathe. Your body is exhibiting aberrant behavior. That aberrant behavior is illness. Your society is awash in weapons. The people in that society, every day of the week, every day of the year, almost 9 out of the 10 days, has made the decision to go out and kill somebody in a mass shooting. That's a sick society. That's your society is trying to get something across that something is wrong with your society. My position on this is that the thing that your society is trying to get across is how much poverty is in your society. How many people are going without? How many people are struggling and stressed? Even when people do have the money to make their ends meet, how much stress are they under? How am I going to pay for this kid? How am I going to pay for this husband? How am I going to pay for this car note? How am I going to pay to get this car fixed? How am I going to pay for the school bill? How am I going to pay for this healthcare bill? Yes, I have Obamacare, but how am I going to pay for the co-pays because my kid is sick? These things are stressful. Even in the best case scenarios or the normal scenarios, these things are immensely stressful. You're washed in vulnerability. Doesn't have to be that way. There's nothing forcing it to be that way. You choose for it to be that way. You're beings of choice. Your society can be arranged in any way you want your society to be arranged. This is the way we've arranged our society. What are you worth? What are you worth? Ultimately, the question that we're getting at is, what are you worth? What is your value? What do you believe that you should be worth? What do you believe that your society should look like? Does your society look like the thing that you believe it should look like? And if not, why? Why do you believe that these people feel the need to carry guns in this way? Why do you believe that these people are so terrified? Why do you believe that we are washed in guns to the degree that we're washed in guns? I'm trying to make a very particular point, whether I'm making it or not. The issue is not Bernie Sanders with Sandy Hook. The issue is the policies that these politicians be pushing. Hillary Clinton doesn't have a leg to stand on. Yes, you can be rabid about guns in the United States, but what about abroad? What about abroad? What about the Libya thing where you went in and pushed to get all of those people murdered? That place is a dumpster fire right now. It's a dumpster fire. What about shipping weapons to Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia is using the weapons to murder Yemenis and starve Yemenis to death. That was you in the State Department. I don't want to hear this shit about Hillary Clinton saying, God damn it, I'm the candidate for guns. And if I was in that office, this wouldn't have happened. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And to me, the quality of life is life, meaning a life abroad is equal to the life here. If you're going to do stuff abroad to get people murdered, how do you have a leg to stand on here in the United States? Putting shit like this, talking about Bernie Sanders and associating him in any way whatsoever with the Sandy Hook massacre and associating him with what took place in Las Vegas. It's fucking insanity. This is insanity. Your candidate lost. She lost. She failed. She failed on a massive fucking level to a reality show host. Understand the gravity of that statement. That is an immense embarrassment. There is no... The level of embarrassment has never been calculated. I don't think it can be calculated. It's like trying to calculate what's the highest number that you could think of. It's one of those type of things. She failed to Donald fucking Trump. Just 8 months ago, he was firing has-been celebrities on television. That's the guy you lost to. Grab him by the pussy. Donald Trump will say any and everything. He ran the worst campaign in the history of campaigns, with the exception of one other person. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Sitting at home writing books called What Happened. Trying to find each and every person that she can blame for her own failure and fuck-ups. And yet and still, her hillbots, the bitter people, are still out there swinging in the hill. Hitting nothing but air. Bernie Sanders and associating Bernie Sanders with guns. Well, look, I don't want to detail your failings because I detail your failings in other videos. I will detail a few, however. Being under criminal investigation for a year is not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody. If you want to run a campaign, guess what you don't want to do? Be under FBI criminal investigation. Doesn't help. It doesn't help cheating the guy that the majority of the people actually liked. Doesn't help being the most hated candidate in the history of candidates, with the exception of Donald Trump. Doesn't help choosing Tim Kaine after almost losing to a socialist, after cheating that socialist and almost losing to that socialist. Doesn't help choosing Tim Kaine. None of these things look good on you. It doesn't look good that your husband passed NAFTA. It doesn't look good that you were pushing for the TPP. None of those things are good. Having Obama running around pushing for the TPP at the exact same time you're trying to distance yourself from it is a failure. Having healthcare rates go up just before the election is a failure. You had one failure after the next. Pretending as if the economy was just fucking awesome when all of these people were struggling and hurting is not a good idea. You failed on your own merits. Stop trying to bring all these other people into the mix. You're acting as if nobody should have ran against your candidate. Your candidate failed. She was a miserable fucking candidate and she lost. Get over it. Get over it. My audio is low. Is it? Nobody else has said my audio is low. And I think my audio is... Let's see. Oh, you're all right. My audio is low. Hate when that happens. Thank you. I appreciate it. I should have looked up earlier. Oh, Alice. God damn it. I should have looked up earlier. I've increased the audio. Basically, what it boils down to is Hillary Clinton failed on all merits. Blaming Bernie Sanders and including him in this idea of gun violence is insane. It's just insane. Bullshit, man. And regarding Jordan Chariton being arrested, well, couldn't have happened to a nicer brook. He's the milk for all those. Jordan Chariton's been arrested. I didn't know that. Arrested for what? Wait, what was Jordan? What was Jordan arrested for? What did Jordan do? I didn't know about that one. I did not know about that one. I gotta look that one up, bullshit, man. Hey Jamal, just been watching TYT live stream from St. Louis. Jordan and cameraman arrested. Hungry's a cop with billy clubs. Wow, I need to check that out. Redneck Economics. Yeah, volume's low here too. God damn it. Bernie's so violent with all the free healthcare and college rhetoric. Yeah, they're arresting anyone at the protest. Oh, I see. I don't dislike Jordan Chariton. I mean, yeah, I don't dislike Jordan. There are times where he says shit that I've disagreed with, but I don't dislike him. Yeah, I'm good, but I've said everything I needed to say or I wanted to say. I hate that. The worst thing that I found doing videos is you do the video the way you want to do the video, and then afterwards something went wrong. And there was no way to replicate what took place prior. I don't use notes. Like, there's sometimes where I use notes where there's something very specific that I want to get across, but usually it's almost like channeling. I have a very specific point. I get what I need in regards to the information and the details and just go. I hate having to do things twice. Hate it. Gnome, I have no problem with Jordan other than he works for TYT. Fair enough. They're trying to say that 100 grand of Facebook ads managed to influence the electorate more than Donald Trump's billions or Hillary's $2 billion. They're just, yeah, they're insane. Andrew Wright, that's insanity. That's insanity. They're looking for anything. Think of it this way, though. I give you $1 billion. I give you $1 billion. And you lose. Oh, you lose. You lose. You failed. You completely failed on a massive fucking level in a national stage. You fail. You fail so much so that the night when you're supposed to give your speech of, I'm sorry, this guy pummeled the shit out of me, you're nowhere to be found. Now, I felt bad for Hillary Clinton that night, if I'm being honest. Because I acknowledge how embarrassing that was. Not anymore. Not anymore. If you're going to write a book named What Happened, that book should have been called I'm Going the Fuck Away for a Very Long Time. You're not going to see me again. What Happened is not the book I wanted Hillary Clinton to write. Gnome, he said I didn't feel bad for her. You're heartless anyway, dude. You have a heart of stone anyway. You must understand, I do feel bad for people from the standpoint of being a human being, if that makes sense. I may say stuff that's brutal at times, but from a humanistic standpoint, I look at it. Look, I don't think I'm a selfish person. I'm not as giving as some of the other people in my family and everything else, but I'm not completely selfish. There is an element in me that is selfish, though. I'm an Aries moon. I look at this stuff from the perspective of self. When I look at other people, I look at their reactions. I try to think of it from the standpoint of what are the pressures that would be applied against me for me to behave a particular way? How would I feel in that particular situation with those pressures applied upon me? So, yeah, to some degree it makes me a little bit more empathetic because I try to put myself in the place of these other people. Even people I don't particularly like. I didn't have a dog in the hunt in the last election. I voted for Joe Stein. That being said, I was terrified of Donald Trump. I thought Hillary Clinton was going to start a war. So in that sense, yeah, I was terrified of Hillary Clinton. But I have no illusions about Donald Trump. I think he's dangerous. I think he's a dangerous maniac. Dax Jacob, use your camera phone as backup for your home recordings. We have others to mix into your show as often as tech issues. That's a good point. I didn't look at the comments early on. I should have looked at them early on. I tend to get distracted when I look at the comments when I'm doing my thing. I try to do it first and then look at the comments. God damn it, I may have to do this video again. It's annoying. Gnome, fuck her, dude. She cheated us out of candidate. Don't bother empathizing with her. Some people don't deserve empathy and consideration. Others don't. I feel you. I feel you. And look, I'm on this bandwagon of she should be locked up and prosecuted. What took place in the Clinton Foundation? There needs to be some level of law and order in regards to politics. Otherwise, you're just going to have these guys doing whatever the hell they want. So, don't misunderstand me. Don't misunderstand me. But, from a human being standpoint, on that night, yeah. On that night, like I said, not now. Not now. If you're going to write a book named What Happened and you're blaming everybody instead of going the fuck away after losing an election, yeah, not now. Not now. Hillary Clinton should be in prison. At least Trump killed the TPP. Yes, that's true. That's true. I gave him credit for that. Definitely gave him credit for that. You don't need to redo the video. The audio was low, but not so much that you couldn't be heard. Okay. John Crab, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to have people yelling at me, though. I can't hear this. I can't hear this. I can't hear your video. If Hillary won, it would have been game over for the average person. You know, my fear of it was if she won, say, for example, Hillary Clinton wins the election. She privatizes Social Security. She comes up with some bullshit argument, privatizes Social Security. She gives a massive tax cut. And a lot of that, most of it goes to the rich. And she turns around and puts a missile defense shield in Syria. Potentially get the United States into a larger conflict with Russia. Meaning you would have to actually invade the Syrian civil war. You would have to actually put troops on the ground in Syria. Now, from a progressive standpoint, that is horrid. That is immensely horrid. That is a step backwards. What's the argument when Hillary Clinton is going against Ted Cruz in 4 years? And are they going to use the same argument of, oh my God, Ted Cruz is a goddamn maniac. You don't have a choice. You have to vote for Hillary Clinton. How dare you vote for a third-party candidate? Like, is that going to still be the same argument that's being used? And if that's the same argument that's being used, then yes, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. It's no point in me being forced into this weird position both times. Fuck that. You cheated my guy. You're not getting my vote. It's that simple. And Hillary supporters never want to answer that question. Like, when you ended up in the situation of, well, wait a minute, what happens in 4 years? What are you going to do? Well, I mean, at that case, you can't vote for Ted Cruz. No, I understand that, but are you saying that even if she does everything that you hate and despise in that office, are you still going to vote for her? That's the crux of the question. That's the question that they, for the most part, hate, because they know the answer to that question based upon their tenor with the Trump thing. The answer is yes, they are going to vote for her. You're going to be held over a barrel. Half of the public is going to go to sleep, so you're not going to get a primary challenge. So you're ending up in the situation with Hillary Clinton for either 8 years, or she's going to lose to somebody who's worse than Donald Trump. If I'm going to make a stand, meaning if she's going to lose now. And we're going to have a war into 2020. Progressives need to get their shit together. Honestly, 2020 is it's hard to get across that 2020 is potentially a game changer. It's a re-envisioning of the Democratic Party potentially, particularly if progressives can get their shit together. Trump has been pretty standard GOP proposed so far. Yes, he has. In what he's doing, yes. Not in rhetoric, in what he's doing. Like, Mike Pence would do the exact same thing. What the difference is, Mike Pence will probably get more shit done. But he would have a grandfatherly demeanor. So people would just go to sleep. If you notice, the media focuses more on Trump's antics, not necessarily on the actual substance of what Trump is doing. You should focus on the substance of what he's doing. I think that's more terrifying than anything else, not the antics. The antics is just tenor or tone. I'm talking about actual policy. What the fuck is he doing in our office? That's what you should focus on. Lose dances. That is the truth. Progressives have to learn to draw a line in the sand that no one could cross. They call it a litmus test, but it is a litmus test. What are your values? What do you stand for? Are there things that you say I can't go across? Are there lines that you draw? I don't want to put a vote that I know for somebody who's going to end up murdering a lot of people. Before I was politically awake, I could be conned into that. After being more politically awake, no. No, I can't. Now, if I believe that we're going to run into a wall at some point, why would I vote for somebody that's going to help me or help this country go into that particular wall? Yes, I think Hillary Clinton would run the country to a cliff. And the same way I think Donald Trump will run the country into a cliff. She may do it at 60 miles an hour. He may go at 90, but you're still running into a cliff. Not to mention, they don't have any solutions. Democrats or Republicans. Both of them are bankrupt in regards to as parties go. For the most part, they play off one another. This is all spectacle, by the way. At one point, the political apparatus was used to actually get shit done and for the operation of governance. Can you honestly say that's what takes place now? Can you honestly say that what these guys do is governance? They play off one another. All of this stuff is just political antics. It's not real governance. These guys don't have the capacity to actually do things that represent the population itself. They represent the interest of people who are paying them. You have a political system that runs on cash. You don't see any problems with that. Your politicians are being bribed. If they're taking a campaign donation, they're being bribed. Whatever they tell you, whatever the smile they have on their face, ultimately they're being bribed. Politicians are public relations people. The campaign or the money behind them is the thing that actually pulled the strings. This is what we want. This is what we want if you want to get elected. That politician needs to translate that to the American public. In translating it to the American public, that politician needs to get across to the people who are paying them what the least they need to do. They have their interests. The people who are paying those guys have particular interests that they want to get accomplished. The politician himself has this task of, okay, what's the least I can do and maintain my financial base? If I'm going to need money to get elected, if I'm going to have to take all these millions of dollars from these people, and if these people want things from me when I take these millions of dollars, well, the public also wants things. The public is voting for me. How do I translate what these people want into some kind of rhetoric that the public will buy into? For that matter, if the public is not buying into it, how do I get that across to the people who are giving me money so I can at the very least get a little bit done? Think Obamacare. What is the least I can do? What is the least I can do? It's not going to cover everybody. They may call it universal health care, but you still have 20-some million people uninsured. They call it universal health care because Republicans were attacking it, so they needed to kind of bolster it in a way. It's not universal. People still have bills. People are still eaten alive by hospital bills. Even if you have health insurance, understand what I'm saying. I'm saying this from experience. My mom was not a wealthy woman. My mom did whatever she had to do to make ends meet and raise her kid as a single parent. My dad wasn't around. My dad didn't help. And my mom had a job where I think she started off making like $7 an hour. When she finished that job after 20, 30 years, eventually getting carpal tunnel from the job itself, I think she was making like $13. That's it. That's all. My first real job, I bested her best salary by like $20,000. With that paltry salary, she had to raise a kid. And in raising that kid ended up getting ill. And with that kid getting ill, even though she had health care, one copay after the next, 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 after the next. Who cares if you have health insurance, if you have a hospital bill like $1 million? What is your health insurance going to do? Having Medicare that pays 80% of your copays, 80% of your costs. What is 80% of $100,000? Okay, we've paid $80,000. You have a $20,000 bill. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Just because you have health care doesn't necessarily mean that your bills are covered and that you're okay. If you got cancer, if you had some kind of kidney failure, if you had some kind of liver failure, if you had some kind of heart issue, you're going to get eaten alive because those doctors have a fiscal interest. Put it this way. Your illness is their cash cow. Oh, this person has this particular illness. This person is going to continuously come to me over and over again. And I'm going to either get this money from Medicare or their insurance company in perpetuity. And they're going to pay me a copay in perpetuity. Healthcare is not a panacea. What is the least you can do? Even drug costs. Not having the capacity for the federal government to negotiate for drug costs. At one point, my drug bills were $300 a month. Look, man, all I'm saying is people have this image of Obama, like, oh my God, he passed Obamacare. This is awesome. Talk to the people still going bankrupt. Talk to the people without health care insurance. So, Gnome. Yep, the copays are devastating. Gnome. The doctors have their own pressures. Don't blame them. I blame the healthcare conglomerates, big pharmacy. You're misunderstanding me. I see these things as systemic. The used car salesman that people consider greasy and all this other stuff, and then he's trying to get over them. That guy has a kid. That guy has a wife. That guy has a house that he needs to pay for. That guy is being greasy to some degree because he needs to make ends meet. You're stuck in a society that everybody, for the most part, is trying to make ends meet, and you make ends meet off the backs of other people. That is your society. Your society has consistently put you in a position of fucking one person over in order to get your ends. Now, people try to say, well, people can act with integrity. You can. You can, yes. You can act with integrity. But oftentimes, you're put in situations where if you're going to get by, you're going to get by on the back of somebody else. So it's not me blaming doctors. It's just somewhat of a flat fact that these guys are taking money from the person who's ill. That's what it is. Yeah, it's capitalism. Yeah, lose dance. Yeah, it's capitalism. Gnome, lowering the cost of medical school would help in the situation to a degree. Make school free. Make school free. If the bum on the streets wants to go to school, let the bum on the street go to school. If somebody want to come from around the world to go to our school, like they do in Germany, let somebody from around the world go to our school. Ultimately, you have a situation where think of the potential that you could unleash when any and everybody have the potential to get an education to any degree that they want to get an education. Think of the potential that's released if people don't have the burden of making sure that their ends are met. Your society is the problem. It's not this one individual thing. Yes, you can say the medical conglomerates, that's true, but ultimately it's the way your society is arranged. That's all I'm getting at. Yeah. Alright, my wife is waiting on me. She was nice enough to say she'd move the pieces for me. I'm trying to get back into playing chess. I don't like losing. I hate losing in chess. Because it's like, you know, even if you had a cashless society, you still have hierarchy. But the hierarchy would be based on merit, not based on this fake thing of markets and cash. Just because someone has a stupid human trick that allowed them to get a lot of cash doesn't mean they were meritorious about it. It just means they have a stupid human trick that allowed them to get a lot of cash. Skill. These guys who just got the award in science for the gravitational waves. Yes. People who are coming up in science will look at them from a certain level of these guys are fucking awesome. But that's just based on what these guys did in the field that earned that particular, that feeling associated with it. Not, this guy just has a lot of cash and society puts a certain status around cash, so this guy gets a certain amount of merit. Didn't do shit for that cash. Usually he's just exploiting people to get the money. In the case of chess, when you break 2,000, like I did, and you're in the tournament halls, and for the most part, everybody you see and you play, you just beat. It's just, don't even have to look at the game, like talking about it, it's automatic. And then you stop playing for like 5 years. Oh. You're not who you were before. And yet you still have this aspect of yourself that's there, that you acknowledge that, okay, I haven't played in 5 years. I'm not going to be what I was before. And yet you still have this aspect of yourself of like, oh, this hurts. This burns. I gotta get my skill back. If everybody goes to school, who will fight the dumb wars? Lose dance. That's funny. My hubby started playing chess again with his buddies last week. Good game. My son used to kick my ass in chess. Gnome. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks, Jamal. Start playing preschoolers. You'll win at least 6% of the games. That's that Kramer thing on Seinfeld where Kramer was beating up people in karate and he was acting like he was just this awesome guy. No. When I win, I want to win. I wanted to be skill, and I wanted to be like, I beat this guy, and this guy was awesome, and I just whipped his ass. Otherwise, there's no joy in it for me. Jamal Thomas, you've been on Tube for plenty lately. Yeah, I have. I enjoy it. I actually enjoy YouTube. I mean, it's usually the people around me don't talk about politics or talk about this kind of esoteric stuff, so I enjoy talking about it. Let the people. I know you're kidding, Guard. No, I know you're kidding. Let the people who start the wars go to war. Agreed. Nobody's fought their damn wars. First, let me and my children trash talk, and they're embarrassingly good at it. I was telling Elizabeth Beck how we talk at the barbershop. We are brutal, man. We used to play chess around a friend's house, Ted's, and it used to be like 4 or 5 guys sitting there listening to jazz, drinking beers, some smoking pot, playing chess. Some of the best nights of my life. The trash talk is amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Don't let it go too far, but it's amazingly hilarious when it's good and these guys are free flowing. And then you have this thing where you would add a woman to the mix, so you would get like 1 or 2 women players, not one player, Suki. And then trash talk comes down a little bit. It's hilarious, man. It's like a bunch of cavemen having to go at each other, and then you bring a woman into the mix, and everybody just kind of calms down and acts their best behavior. It's fucking hilarious. And yes, I love spades. Trash talking in spades is awesome. It's awesome. You're my newest favorite progressive commentator. Very thoughtful discussions. Oh, thank you, Loose Dances. We used to, my friend and I, when we went to Longwood, we played in a spades championship. We won that spades championship because we were fucking awesome at spades. Then there was the real spades championship, which is the black spades championship. And the reason I say that is there's a spades championship that was the official one for the school. Then there was the one held by, I think it was the Q, the fraternity. That was the real one. That was the one where the brothers were playing. We came in second place. Man, we came in second place, and it went down to like one last game, and it went down one last game. It was good. It was a good tournament. I had a friend who was a garbage collector. He trashed all the time. I know it was pretty bad. He couldn't resist. It depends on what it is. Like, if everybody is in this kind of kumbaya, chill, great mood, then yeah, it works great. But not everybody can take it. Like, not everybody has that thing about them where they deal with it. I grew up with it. So for me, I used to leave school after I finished my class. At a certain point, we could leave school early once you get enough classes. And I would leave school and I would go to the barbershop and I would sit there till like 7 o'clock at night. During the summer breaks, I would sit there all day. So you have this like 12-year-old sitting there with these grown men playing chess all day, all the way into the evenings. So at a certain point, I just got used to it. It was used to it. It was harder to kind of go into this thing of tournament halls and being quiet and everything else and not saying anything. And then at a certain point, you get used to that. You get used to both. The trash talk is fun. When I was at tournaments and people were playing blitz, this was when I was at my best, and I would see somebody talking trash. Oh man, it was freedom. It was freedom. Particularly when it was somebody was talking trash and beating up on others. Oh, it was freedom. It was freedom. It's like killing a Nazi. I get to talk trash, and I'm talking about a real Nazi, not these guys who run around with the flag in the United States. And I say that jokingly, so don't take that out of context. That sounds bad when it says that way. But I'm saying in the sense of like if you're watching what's that movie? Inglourious Bastards. Nobody frets when people kill a Nazi in the movies. It's just like, oh, the guy was a Nazi. Nobody thinks twice about it. The fact that the person was a human being. But it's freeing, man. It's like this guy's talking shit to these people and he's beating them, and it's like, I'm going to stand in defense of these people who are being beaten, and I'm going to just talk massive shit to you as I beat the shit out of you. I love it. I love it. Uh-oh, I'm a black supremacist. Even if I had enough credits to stay in school, I'm going to our classes. My children are taught by the school starting in 3rd grade. It should be an official course of everybody. Everybody should be taught. Our school systems are limited, by the way. Meditation should be taught if it was up to me. Chess should be taught if it was up to me. All those things would be mandatory classes. This thing of yeah, they would call me a hippie though. Yeah, they would say that these schools aren't whatever. I would argue that if you do that early on, you can get a kid that's a better kid. All around, just as a better person in society in general. They're more thoughtful, they're more aware, they're more you may make them more devious, but ultimately they'll be more self-aware, more aware of consequences of action. It would be good to have it early on, including languages, by the way. Languages, Spanish, English, well, of course English, but Spanish, French, hell, Chinese, Russian, whatever. Get those kids to the point where they're citizens of the world, not necessarily these limited things that can just, repeat what they're taught. Make it a better thing. I know it was a joke. I know it was a joke. I know it was a joke. Alright, yeah, I'm going to end it. My wife is nice enough to have, she's going to move the pieces for me while I play the computer. And so I told her this was going to be about 30 minutes. I'm about 19 minutes over, or 12 minutes over, so it's not too bad. I don't play the French. I hate the French, by the way. Not the people, the opening. I used to lose to it so much that I had to develop another opening in order to deal with it. I started playing the King's Indian attack against the French, and I would eat the French for lunch. I would eat it for lunch. You should see my games. Bullshit, man. School education is pretty fucked up. Learning, especially for boys, should be more hands-on and practical. Looking back, I reckon at least 50% of the time was a complete waste. 25% inadequate teaching style. Fair enough. Hi, Jamal. Have you seen? I love Rick and Morty. Love it. I love it. I should do a segment just on Rick and Morty. John Crab. Hi, Jamal. Do you have seen Rick and Morty? I love it. I would like to know what you think about it. I love Rick and Morty, and I do not want to get on a tangent about Rick and Morty because I love that show. I love it too much. Fuck it. That was one aspect of the show, and I'll talk about it real quick. Man, we've gone so far away. This was a fuck you to the person who wrote that post. Our reality is arbitrary. Completely arbitrary. People look at culture and all this other, those things are arbitrary. They don't mean anything. They're not real by any degrees. It's what people come up with. It's what people bandy around. It's how people organize themselves and arrange themselves. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It doesn't exist. If you were on a different planet, it would be different. If you're in a different culture, it would be different. I think human beings are immensely malleable. You hear me say that a lot because it's true. If you were in a Native American culture before America got here, you would find a different reality in the way that people interacted with one another. Rick and Morty puts a nail in it better than anything else I've seen on television. There was one episode where Morty had put on a device, lived an entire life, died, like overcame cancer, died, and woke up like, what the fuck just happened? He says, yeah, you had it on a brain device. You just kind of lived the life through the device itself. We have no idea what reality is. Zero. Physicists, the best they do is deal with trying to figure out what the properties of reality is, not the question of what reality is. Those are the things that mystics and gurus and all these other guys who do out-of-body stuff gets into. Rick and Morty jumping dimensions and going from one dimension to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. These things of this multiple physical matter realities. The choices that you make from one choice to the next, these things divide. So all of the choices are equal. So all of these things are illuminated in some way. Yes, it could be that way. It could be that way. This could be a computer program sitting on somebody's desk. And all of these different realities could be just filtered out from this idea of software. Now, granted, when I say software, I don't mean software from the standpoint that we understand software, but software from the standpoint of some external thing. When you listen to these physicists like Einstein and I'm dropping the names, I'm missing the names, and they would say stuff like the other, external to our dimension, our reality frame. What do you mean external to our reality frame? You're a physicist. You're a physicist. As a religious belief, you don't believe there's anything beyond our reality frame. Not all physicists believe that. There are many physicists that full well understand this looks like a simulation. Or they would go for this thing of, however this is being produced external. The universe is expanding. What is it expanding into? Like, look, there's a lot of stuff that physicists take as religious beliefs. That's all I'm saying. The Rick and Morty thing, jumping dimensions, is fascinating. And it puts a pin that our society, how we're arranged, is completely arbitrary. I keep saying there's no heaven above or hell below that prevents you from arranging yourself in any way you want. You just have to have the will to do it. That's it. Rational human beings coming together saying, hey, human beings are real. The planet is real. What do we need to do to make sure that the planet is intact and that human beings have what they need so they don't exhibit aberrant behavior? That's a rational society. We don't live in a rational society. Rick and Morty, if anything, just puts this pin in this kind of the arbitrariness of culture. I love it. There was this thing on, I think it was the RT, where these guys were beating the shit out of themselves. They were like bleeding and whatnot. They were going through some kind of religious festival. And you're looking at that like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? What belief system? What did you buy into that has you doing that? It's arbitrary. It's completely arbitrary. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. All right. I'm going to end this before my wife says, go fuck yourself and all this other good stuff and all these other bad words that you may say. Look, guys, I enjoy this. Look, I enjoy this. When I do videos, it's because I enjoy doing videos. There's no other impetus other than a certain amount of angst and annoyance with the way the world is and wanting to make a difference in any minor degree that I can make a difference, even if that's getting 3 people to say, hey, maybe this guy's right. I'm further to the left than most. So when I talk about this stuff, I try to talk about this stuff from the standpoint of, I don't believe we need to have a cashless society. I don't like this idea of markets. What is this? How do we need to arrange ourselves to make sure that people have the things that they need? We have the capacity to go beyond scarcity. Any scarcity in the world is at this point arbitrary. That guy who's on the street, it's not on the street because we don't have houses for him to live in. It's not on the street because we don't have resources that guy can get. We just don't give him those resources. He doesn't have access to those resources. He could be homeless, and there could be a house right behind him with a for sale sign on it. So our society is warped. People exhibit aberrant behavior when they're put under stress. My uncle, and I'm going to give an example of this. He had been in prison for a while, and he comes out. He's living with my grandmother, or he was over my grandmother's house, and my grandmother's getting her hair done. The woman leaves. My uncle goes up behind her and says, hey, can you take me to that place. And he pulls a knife on the woman in the car. Now, this seems insane to me. The woman knows my grandmother. She's known my grandmother for years. She just did my grandmother's hair. Certainly, this woman knows who you are. Certainly, this woman knows who my grandmother is. He's trying to rob this woman. Now, trying to rob this woman, it's like, hey, what do you expect to get from this woman? She just did my grandmother's hair. My grandmother didn't pay her a huge amount for the hair. So he's like, well, let's go to the ATM. I want you to take money out the bank and all this other stuff. And then the question becomes, well, what are you going to do with her afterwards? You're just going to take the money and go back home? Do you believe that this woman doesn't know who you are? Certainly this woman knows who you are. So then it becomes, are you going to kill the woman? Is that where you're going to go? Like, is this going to go from a robbery to a murder? That seems to be the only logical conclusion at this point. I mean, ultimately, you know this person is intimately aware, not intimately, but certainly knows who you are. What's your escape hatch? What's your escape plan? How do you get out of this without being caught? Ultimately, she does something, he leaves, and she calls the cops. Cops comes to my grandmother's house. They talk to him and they lock him up. He should be locked up. I get the opportunity to talk to him on the phone. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Like what the hell? Like, how are you sticking somebody up, let alone sticking somebody up that my grandmother knows? And he's like, I had a lot of bills and I had a lot of stuff on me. I had a lot of pressure on me. I responded poorly. Now, I hear that, and that answer to me is somewhat unacceptable. It's unacceptable. But whether it's unacceptable or not, it was true for him. In a different society, would have behaved that way. Now, I have to take this thing of, with the factors that he was presented with, there were aspects of his personality that were just atrocious from an early age. There's an aspect of him that's him. There's an aspect of him that's bumping up against a particular society that's arranged in a particular way. Wasn't raised in a bad household. Nobody else in the household turned out that way. It was just him. What were the forces that were acting upon him that got his behavior to be that way? Now again, there was an aspect that was him. Don't misunderstand me. I guess what I'm getting at is, you have 325 million people in this country. Some percentage of those people are not going to deal with the situation to which they're dealt with well. You're putting those people under stress unnecessarily. Your society can be arranged in a different way. Those people can be different in that different society. In the society that they're in, they behave poorly. This is not the excuse's behavior. Like I said, I find the answer to be somewhat unacceptable. But whether it's unacceptable or not is kind of besides the point. It's the choice that he chose based upon the factors that was presented to him. He was under stress. It's not right. It just is. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. My perspective on this stuff is systemic. It's, how does the system need to be arranged to not have people behave in that way? To have their needs met. To make sure those people have their needs met. If they're going to exhibit aberrant behavior in that situation, then that's a different scenario. But I guarantee you, there's going to be less people exhibiting that aberrant behavior in a situation where their needs are already met than it is in our situation where people are vulnerable and consistently vulnerable. So, that's a morbid note to end it. It's a miracle she agreed to move the chess pieces around. You're right, Gnome. BB Jamal's wife must have to tell him to shut the fuck up. Sometimes, yeah. Actually, we don't do that. That's off limits to us. We don't curse at each other in anger. Gnome, let's drive him off the stream with trolling. Jamal, we're not that important. Go home. I'm at home. I heard Jamal was caught making out with a picture of T.Y. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm leaving. All right, fair enough. I'm leaving. I'm being trolled. Jamal, tell me your volume is too high. You should be also, you can hang out with your wife. Yes, I'm going to hang out with my wife. I'm going to tell her that she has an army of people on her side on this. So, all right, guys. I'm going to leave it. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Enjoyed you guys staying on the stream. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, L-I-K-E. Oftentimes I say right, but I'm saying like or subscribe. And of course, you can support through Patreon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, guys.